Hello there, Geek Collective, and welcome to another Let's Talk Comics. Thank you for joining us today. I know it's been a little while since we've dropped a video on the channel. Things have been crazy over here with me moving and a whole bunch of different stuff happening. But we are excited to be back with another Let's Talk Comics, and we are joined again by an old friend of the channel, Ben Lacy, who, if you remember before, we did have him on the channel talking about Samson. I'll put the link up in the corner for that one if you want to go check out that video and see all about that one. But today we're here talking about a different video. But thank you so much for joining us again, Ben. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate having you back. I appreciate you coming back on the show. Sorry, I'm messing with my camera. It's a little off. Wish I'd done that before I hit record. But yeah, it's a pleasure having you back on. Thank you for reaching out with us, letting us know this brand new Kickstarter was going, and for reaching out to come back on the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's great to be here. I really excited to talk about comic books with you and Shark of War in particular.
Absolutely. So for anyone who never saw our last interview, or anyone who just needs a little reminder, give a little introduction of yourself, who you are, and tell us a little bit about this, your latest Kickstarter, Shark of War, which we did briefly mention in our last interview, but I'm excited to get into it today.
My name's Ben Lacy, and I've been an indie comics creator for about 5 years now. Shark of War is my longest running title. It's up to issue 9. Which I think is pretty long, especially for an indie comic book. Shark of War is basically a flip on normal shark stories. It's Jaws meets RoboCop. Jaws if the shark were the hero, RoboCop if the cop were a shark. He's an escaped U.S. military experiment on the loose in the Caribbean, enforcing the law as he sees fit. The first 5 issues form the first story arc, and this next 4 issues form the second story arc, of which this will be the concluding comic book for that story arc. But not to worry if you haven't read Shark of War before. The whole back issues are all available as part of the Kickstarter, and I really want people to get the back issues, so I think I made the price very reasonable to get the previous issues. Basically, I use Comic-Con pricing on my past issues, so you're paying what people that come up to me at Comic-Con would pay, but you get the digital version and you get it shipped to you as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so Shark of War is part of my Biting Comics universe. There are 3 other books in the universe right now, with the Vicious Vixens and Doc Owanga, which is kind of a direct spin-off of issue 1 of Shark of War. The Cthulhu Man, which follows one of the villains as she tries to make new monstrous creatures, and she gives one the powers of a Cthulhu. And then Samson, which takes place between World War II and the fall of the Berlin Wall, and we'll start to see how that ties into the same universe, the larger Biting Comics universe as Shark of War, in the next issue of Samson. If you go to the Kickstarter, you will get to read issue 1 for free. There is a link at the very top of the Kickstarter that will take you right to issue 1. You can read the whole thing without having to sign up for any mailing list or anything else. It'll just open a Google Doc there. Feel free to read it. Feel free to send it to your friends. In fact, I don't mind people pirating my issues there and sharing them out. It's an extended version, basically, of the hard copy of the comic book with bonus features in the back. So I hope people at least read it, and if they like it, consider backing. One thing to note is I did the art for the first 5 issues myself. After issue 5, though, I wound up hiring comic book artists to do the art. And if you think my art was okay or good, you're going to think their art's even better and a step advancing the book as we go into the even more exciting second story arc. It starts with issue 6 through 9.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got to check out the entire series pretty much up to issue 8. Thank you so much for sending that to me to
no problem.
read before our interview to get into it. And because I'll be honest, I didn't know what I was getting into with Shark of War. I knew it was a shark that had like you said, RoboCop documentations and stuff, and I'm like, and all you get on the front cover, at least when I opened up volume 1, is a shark with what looks like 2 massive rockets strapped to it, and I'm like, what in the world am I about to read? Um, and I got into it, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much I actually really did enjoy the story. Because
Oh,
it's
thank
like
you.
you're never quite sure what you're going to get when you open up an indie comic book. Like I've read a number of indie comic books, and it can be
Yeah,
it can be phenomenal to god awful ranging. And like I actually
right.
really enjoyed the story for this. It was definitely, I kind of followed along more than I realized I was going to, and I mean that is the highest compliment because going into a book list, you don't know what you're going to get. But for our readers who don't know Shark of War, take us through where the concept for it came up from, where the idea came up for us.
Sure. There's a couple of inspirations. The movie The Meg came out. The first Meg movie came out
Mm-hmm.
in the late 2018 or 19, and it gave me it was very popular, but it was basically the same shark movie we've seen before. Is just a bigger shark now.
Yeah.
And but it's the same shark killing people, and I was like, what if the shark was the and we flipped that around and made the shark the good guy, and he's fighting the bad people and eating the bad people. That would be kind of an interesting story. So I kind of had it on my mind as, a short story about a shark. And, I also was thinking, I'd read stuff about how the military at different times tried to use dolphins and other sea creatures for different tasks, like training them to remove landmines. So I thought, well, what if we augmented this shark and made him better than he was, and um, so that he could do more, would be smarter, could fly short distances, so he could actually, get out of the water in a way that made more sense than, say, in the Sharknado movies, which were also going on at the time. Again, this was again another story where sharks are eating people, but they're being carried by tornadoes, which sounded funny, but you know it was a limited limited in its scope. So I took
Absolutely.
those ideas together, and I was originally just thinking of it as a short story, something like Jetpack Shark or something like that. But then I started seeing these software programs, modeling programs that would let you make 3D art. I was like, I'm an engineer by training. I'm pretty good at doing using the computer. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll try and make a comic book out of this instead. And it just kind of kept going, where I started making pages, and I thought, yeah, this is pretty good. I'm gonna make it a comic book. I learned about Kickstarter. I started doing, I did the first issue on Kickstarter. It managed to fund, and I just kept going from there. And it's had you know, kind of a cult following, I think, from the
Yeah.
point of view of, people like it. It's, they hear the plot, and as you said, the plot usually is like, oh wow, that's really funny or really over the top. But then I think people, when they read it, they know that it has that over the top element, but it also has, I'm trying to, also tell a solid story and not just make it a Sharknado kind of thing. I'm
Oh
trying to
yeah, absolutely.
make
I
it have
mean,
more depth to the character. I think if people read it, will really like the shark, and they'll start to root for him, as almost a superhero.
that's it. Like, I mean, it's definitely like Shark of War when you see the title and you see the like the front covers and stuff. It's definitely
Yeah.
got that clickbait thing that like a cult following would absolutely fall behind. Of like, oh, I need to see what the hell that is because that's just, it's so intriguing and bizarre to see. Like, you don't see that sort of stuff. You're like, okay, I'm interested to see what the concept is, which is exactly what you want, especially as an indie creator. You want something that's going to like, oh wait, what's that, and get people's
Mhm.
attention. You know,
Yeah, that's always my hope.
but then to like pull them in and go, actually, no, we've got a story here. We've got a plot point. We've got an ongoing thing. Like you said, you're at the end of your second story arc now. Like we've got an ongoing story that's occurring, and that's
Mhm.
part of an even bigger universe. It's so people come in for that clickbait. They see that there's more to it, which is exactly what you want. Um,
Right.
but I love the inspiration behind it, and like you said, with shark movies especially, like You know, you mentioned the inspiration of like the Meg coming out around about the time you kind of that spurred on some ideas. Like, there really isn't much difference in shark movies. There's not like it's one of
Now that
those genres where it's like you said, what can we do? Let's make the shark bigger. It's basically the next evolution of it. The only thing that's ever like went different from that is like you also mentioned was like Sharknado, which is just like the let's throw batshit crazy at the wall and see what sticks sort of
yeah,
response to a shark movie, you know?
yeah, it's a basically Jaws set the template, and everybody else has just
Hmm.
kind of done some variant of it, and some have been better than others.
Absolutely.
Deep Blue Sea, and 47 meters down, and a few others that have been cool, but it's still still a variant of the
Yeah, it's
same
the
story.
same. It's the same basic story. Which I love the fact that you went completely the opposite way with it. Like, no, let's do something legitimately different here.
Right.
Unless,
That was my
and
goal.
it almost feels like making the shark like the hero, you know, quote unquote, for Shark of War. It makes me think of like what you used to get like a lot of stuff in the 80s where it's like you would have whoever like the villain or the monster was of something. They would end up be getting their own level of popularity to the point of like they almost became like, you know, it's the Venom thing of like that he's Spider-Man's
Right.
enemy, but he becomes so popular he's now the anti-hero. It's like
Yeah.
the shark's now got its own like, no, like people want to see what the shark does next. Like screw the humans, we don't
Right.
care about the human story. We want to see what the shark does. And like it's
Yeah.
almost like falling in line with that 80s, 90s type of vibe for something like this, where it's like, well, what if we took Jaws, what if he survived the first film, and what if we strapped rockets to him and made him, you know, this flying tank essentially that can go into battle? And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, let's see what we can do with that, which is absolutely brilliant. It's a concept is like I said, apart from Sharknado, no one's really flipped the script on a shark story before. No
Right. Yeah.
one's really
That was
done
my goal.
something like that at all. Um, how fleshed out? Because like you're now like 9 issues in with this new
Mhm.
Kickstarter. How much did you flesh out the overarching story for it? Like at the beginning, you started working with the program and you started, I'm going to make a comic.
Yeah.
Like, did you start like basically scripting out a story of where this was going to go? Or has this been a case of like, I'm going to get through, excuse me, like a basic origin story and then we'll see where we can take it? Or are
I
you
had
almost
the
going like issue by issue of like, okay, what crazy shit can we do next? Like,
I had the first 5 issues written out before I, did finish the first issue's art. So the first 5 issues, I very much knew where it was all going.
nice.
The second arc, I had kind of a general idea, an outline, and the third arc will be, is similar. Basically, I kind of viewed the story as, 3 arcs, like a classic trilogy, where the first one is the origin, the second one is the villains are pushing back forcefully, and the heroes are more desperate than ever, and the third is the resolution, and I'm not saying the story is going to end with the third arc, but it's gonna resolve to a satisfying place, kind of like other trilogies, movie trilogies. If you think of like Star Wars, for example, I consider this arc the Empire Strikes Back of the Shark of War universe. Um, and then, I'm hoping the third arc will be, I wasn't a big fan of Return of the Jedi to tell you the truth. So I'm hoping the third arc will land the ending a little better, but I think it'll land it in a very good place. There could be more story, but it could also, it also sets it as as a finale for the
Yeah,
moment.
you could wrap it like
Um,
this is our story, or
yeah.
if it's popular enough, you could say now we can tell new stories.
Yeah, and I kinda I kinda know where I want the story to go, but I haven't, fleshed it out in detail, the number of issues, in fact, in the final third arc is gonna depend on the Kickstarter somewhat.
Yeah,
If it ends strong, I would probably do more. If Kickstarter's is weak or struggles, I'm probably gonna try and, speed it along a little, and, focus on, other things for a while and then come back to it. But yeah, it's definitely been plotted out to some degree. It's not all just, oh, I'll just do more. But I mean, some things have gotten, gotten changed. I really, the mega whale of war, who's this issue's villain, I was thinking would come later, but I decided, oh, I'm gonna really ramp up the intensity and bring in a bigger threat.
Yeah,
So
that bigger
that,
threat's definitely a ramping up that I wasn't expecting by the end of like issue 8 to have that reveal going into issue 9.
yeah,
Because like it felt like an extra ramping up on ramping up, because the first story arc has a very basic, like the villains, who they are, like the crime family and the doctor, who's like, who, I'll be honest, in the first few issues I thought she was like going to be someone who helped, like, you know, Shark of War, who helped Nasher, and it's like, and then all of a sudden, like, no, wait, she's the villain. It's like, crap, okay, where's this going?
yeah, yeah.
Because it looked like she
She
was,
kind of goes,
it looked like she was on the side of the shark at first, like in the first like arguments when we first see the shark getting brought in and stuff. I'm like, okay, is she going to be the one
yeah,
that kind of does this stuff? Like, nope, she's going to go mad and start creating more stuff. Like, okay, and then even the first threat in the first volume, like, is a really good first ramping up of like the arming the piranhas and creating like the controlled piranha swarms and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
it's a smart first villain essentially,
right,
because
yeah.
it's like,
That's what I do.
you know, because it's the idea of like, okay, this tiny little fish, but like if you get enough of them, it's dangerous. It's like they are
Right,
like deadly, and it was a really good first one. And then obviously in the second story arc, it ramps up, and we get the whales, the orca, are the major threat because they're an actual predator of the shark. It makes sense. But then the end of issue 8, we get the reveal of the mega whale, the mega orca, who's like freaking like something like a street shark, who's like this monster, like humanoid esque looking orca, and I'm
I
like,
kind of viewed it as a Godzilla-like whale.
yes, yes, it's like he's very much kaiju esque, and it's like, okay, this is ramped up in a way I wasn't expecting. But at the
Yeah,
same time, it's like it's a great ramping up, because it's like well, I want to see this fight though. I want to see
right.
how this fight goes down between Nasher and between the Mega Whale, because like I want to see how he battles something like this, because he's never faced something like this before.
Right.
And especially in the
Yeah, I
midst
think
of it as well, you've got him also dealing with all of these, and we can maybe go into this a little bit as well, but all of these like mental questions that he's dealing with. Because between this volume 1 and volume 2, he's obviously had like his, essentially like his, I almost want to say it's like the rules of robotics, like the Robocop's like laid out, like this is
right.
the rules that you have to follow via his AI. They basically get rewritten, so like he spends a lot of this second arc like questioning stuff, and like,
Yeah,
why is this rule this way? Why does this do this? And then why can't I just go and attack her? Why can't I just do this? You know?
yeah, he was made by the military, and as in RoboCop, he has these directives put in, though his are actually kind of an artificial intelligence that's been implanted in him that has its own personality, that's trying to enforce these rules upon him. They kind of have an odd couple relationship that's occasionally humorous, but also a lot of times much deeper. And if you want to read Shark of War as just an over the top action adventure, you can, but there is a little bit of a deeper meaning there, where it looks at our relationship with artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, the AI has been implanted into his brain, and it's giving him information and instruction, but it's also enforcing rules that it has the powers to enforce. And as we see, the AI itself also is evolving a little bit, in its personality, where it doesn't necessarily want to enforce the rules it's giving him, but it has to as well, because it's kind of compelled by its own programming to do that. Kind of like the scorpion being carried across the water in the Aesop's fable.
Mm-hmm.
It knows it's stupid to sting the person, the frog carrying it, but it can't help itself because it's a scorpion.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, there's some deeper thought, because I I've got a lot of people hate AI, especially in the comic book community, because it represents a direct threat. My my view is a little more, nuanced, where I see the downside, but, I also see the upside. And we also kind of see that with, Shark Wars creator, Ray Fisher, who is, the original dies, in the first issue, and then basically is reborn as a combination of, human brain and computer parts merged together, and that person is actually a better person than the original was in
Yeah.
terms of his, his actions. Whereas before he was basically a super villain type person. Now he's more of a, the brains who the guy in the chair kind of
Yeah.
character who's very much helpful.
And I mean that's it. Like you can't read Shark of War and get away from the AI in it. Like AI is like such a prominent thing because like the AI is, like you said, it's tied into Nasher himself. Like it's in his brain.
Right.
He's got the AI writing with him. But then that as well, like the creator of Nasher who made like the Shark of War dies. Like
Hmm.
first issue, he's dead. But then we have this like hologram AI version of him that still takes that role, and it's like there's a really interesting extra addition of AI conversation because, like you
Right.
said, as the issues go on, like this version of him of Ray is actually better than the other one.
Yeah.
Like as a
Yeah.
person, like he's a better person than Ray was initially, and it's like I love that you've, like you said, especially in the comic book community, the hatred towards AI
Mhm.
is huge. And I get it because half of comic books
Oh yeah.
is art, and AI art has been all over the place now, and it's like, pay
Right.
artists and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's like because AI is the whole thing, like it just steals content from elsewhere and trains. And I'm like, I think I kind of come down in the same place that you do a little bit of like, there's positives and negatives to it because we act like AIs came out of nowhere, and it's really not. We've had AI doing simple tasks for us for a long time. Even like this, you're sitting on your phone, I'm on my computer. There's AI in those systems that make them work,
Yeah.
that help them make decisions and work and function. We've accepted that for years, for decades.
Right.
And it's like, it's not all a negative thing. It can be used in a negative way, but that sums up everything. Everything can
Yeah.
be used for good or bad.
I think in sci-fi, there's a lot of, the AI template obviously is the Terminator movies where the AI achieves sentience and immediately turns on us and wipes us out. And I don't believe that. I think the likelihood is if the AI achieves sentience, it's probably going to be in some kind of merger with us, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't what I kind of have in Shark of Wars, where the AI and the human flesh brain kind of run together, and that creates a somewhat different being.
Yeah.
Ray Fisher, it's a symbiotic relationship because he's human, whereas the Shark of War, it's almost an odd couple relationship where they get along until they don't get along. And that kind of conflict is gonna go out on through the book and actually be a part of the ending, that will resolve the story, in the 3-issue trilogy. So it's kind of an important, you know, background part of the story. But if you're just interested in monster fights, you're going to get those too. You're going to see the monsters fight it out, and there's going to be cool creatures and stuff like that. So hopefully you enjoy both. But if you don't, you can take the reader takes what they want out of the experience, and hopefully they enjoy the.
Absolutely. And I think that's it. Like it's like it would be really easy to look at Shark of War as like it's just another little indie comic out there and trying to
Right.
get stuff on Kickstarter. Which congratulations for your success on Kickstarter because there's tons of indie comics out there that just do not get their goal and do not make it. And Shark of War's always been something that's reached that goal. So congratulations on that. But
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's always tight, so I'm always hoping to, to advance it a little more. So I really appreciate people like you helping and spreading the word about the book.
absolutely, and I think that's it. Like Shark of War, I very much think there is an intriguing story to it here. There is an intriguing, like beyond the just the monster fights and a shark with
Right.
rockets and guns attached to it, which don't get me wrong, action movie brain, I'm in. Like
Yeah.
that's a movie I'd sit down and just put on just to watch, like random, like, yeah, let's go blow stuff up, absolutely. But there's a story to this as well.
Mhm.
And I actually did, like, as I was going through volume one, like and it happened very organically. Like I very much found myself connecting with Nasher. Like the
Right.
conversations he was having with his AI and the conversations that were taking place, like, it's weird to say because it's a shark, but it's like it felt very authentic.
Mhm. Yeah,
Like
I
the,
tried to, I tried to make him an intelligent shark and not turn him into just a person, another,
but that's it
an
though. Like if,
anthropomorphized person, but I want him to still be,
but that's it.
intelligent.
Like it's the I don't know whether it's like the I don't know how to say it. Like it's like the caveman sort of like English, the me do this sort of like, or
Yeah.
what it is. But like it feels very like, okay, yeah, I could understand the shark trying to work this out, and even the questions he asks,
Right.
it makes sense because it's like, well, in his brain, why can't I just do this? Why can't I go this way? Why do I have to follow these directives that I
Right.
just don't get? Like these don't make sense in my head, in my world.
Mhm.
So like, why do I have to? And it felt very authentic, and I found myself very connected to him as a character,
It's great.
and I wanted to see his journey. And it was like, and obviously you try to do that when you're reading a comic, especially as a critic coming in and looking at something, and
Right.
I'm giving my opinion on it. So you're like, I try to connect, but I found it happening very organically. Like I didn't try to connect with Nasher, it just happened. And I felt myself connecting with it and with his story. And by the end of the first volume, I was like, okay, I'm intrigued to see where this goes. Like we've got Nasher, we've got his supporting cast, we've got the villain set up, we've got everything in place. And I'm like, and I'm very intrigued to see where this goes and what they do with this character, what Ben's got planned for him. And I'm like, but it was also natural.
Right.
And I have to commend you for that because that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Is to get someone like, and with, especially with the crazy concept, it's a hard thing to do on a typical, like I read, the AAA books, I read the, you know, stuff for the big two and stuff from the big
Right.
indie publishers. And I'm like, and I find that a hard thing to do is automatically connect with characters. Sometimes it takes time, you know, but I found it very organically happening with a
That's
shark
good.
of all things. And it's like,
Yeah.
it was so, and when I realized it was happening, it was really enjoyable to realize of like, oh yeah, like he's naturally got me caring about this character and
Right.
his journey and what's
Great.
coming. And I'm like, and I do have to commend you for that. That takes a good bit of talent to be able to do, especially from an out of the box character. But that's definitely how I felt. I definitely felt myself feeling that while I was reading just the first volume. I'd only a few issues in. I hadn't even finished the first volume when I started realizing I was connecting. I think I was like halfway through.
That's good. I really appreciate hearing that. And that's what I'm going for. And when I hear that, it really makes me happy because that it's hard, as an indie comic creator to get people to look at your book,
Yeah,
for one thing.
absolutely.
So once you get people looking at the book and they actually respond in the way you hope they do, it's very much a joy. And that's I greatly appreciate that, and I'm very glad to hear you say that. Thank you very much.
No, absolutely. Hey there, Geek Collective. Did you know that Geeks Plus is also on Patreon? For as little as just $2 a month, you can also support us over on Patreon and get early access to all of our YouTube videos from Geeks Plus Comics, Geeks Plus Tabletop, and Geeks Plus Gaming, as well as a whole bunch of exclusive content specifically for our supporters over on Patreon, and early access to all the behind the scenes and ongoings with the company. So if you would like to check out all of that stuff and help support what we do here at Geeks Plus, we would greatly appreciate heading over to patreon.com/geeksplusmedia and supporting us over there. But that's all from me from now. You all have a good day, and let's get back into your video. And to move from the story then to the other big aspect of comics, which is the artwork.
Okay.
You already mentioned, like, you started the artwork for Shark of War, which
Mhm.
I'm sure was a down to it's just surely cheaper for me to do it than trying to hire a comic book artist to do this at the beginning. It was
A
probably
little
a
of both of
factor.
that. Yeah, a little of that, and plus, at the time I wasn't plugged into any community, so I
Mm,
didn't know how to get a comic book artist and who I would like and who would work well, and and so I decided I'd do it myself, and the price was an issue. I didn't want to spend a bunch of money and then it just totally fall off. I figured, "Oh,
yeah,
I'll just do it myself." But, as it went along, it became a real chore, and I was spending so much time trying to do the art, and, it was taking up everything else, and, my interest obviously is much more in writing, and, as I went along, I got into the Facebook groups. I knew where the comic book artists, posted their stuff and who they different ones were and how to go about contacting them. So I started thinking, well, I'm gonna start looking for other people to do the art for it. And as my audience grew a little bit, I thought, I hopefully I can still fund it as I because I'll ask for more money um, as I go and do that. And so far it's worked out, and I think the I think the book's improved for it because my art using digital modeling and stuff like that I think works pretty well for the shark, but it works less well for people and backgrounds and things like that because it gives you more of a video game effect to it. The shark looks, since it's non-human, it still looks cool and dramatic. But when you start seeing those kind of characters as people in most kind of models, they look a little odd, and it doesn't give you the right comic book feel. So now
yeah,
I have artists who are, doing pretty good as, comic book artists. I think if you look at, most recent issues, you'll really see the art that Hearthstroke has done that that gives you that classic comic book feel, and also you know kind of emulates some of the old monster movies. I think, and you'll see that in a couple of the covers that we have for issue 9, especially.
yeah. I mean, I think it's it definitely makes sense. Like as I said, looking into starting your own comic, people don't realize comes with a whole host of stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
the whole process of like I've got an idea, getting an artist and getting money to pay them, getting someone who fits your style, getting someone who's going to do the work that you like,
right.
and you don't get to necessarily see their work on your stuff until it's done. Usually,
Hmm.
like it's a whole big thing that it's like it that people don't realize just how much goes into it. Was it an
Right.
intentional thing that going into volume 2, like this was now the time to get an artist, or did it just happen to line up like that? Of like,
It, it,
I found an artist, I've got the money to pay them. It happens to line up with the brand new volume because obviously, volume 1 is all the kind of 3D modeling, and then like you
right.
hit issue 6, and it's like boom, comic book art, and it's
A
like,
little of all of that. I saw that there was a limitation to how, that arc was done, and I was moving into both doing the spin-offs, Cthulhu Man and Vicious Vixens,
mm,
and Shark of War, and I was like, I'm getting burned out on trying to do the art. I think this is there's clearly a limit for my artwork. It's not going to take the book to the next level. So it's time with this cutoff, it's the best time to make the change. So that's
mhm.
when I started looking for new artists, and also for artists for the spin-off books, because I those books featured more human characters, especially Vicious Vixens, and I knew my art was not gonna work for those books at all. So that's when I moved into completely having all my books done by other artists and colorists, and I just write the stories and edit the stories and act as the publisher, which is kind of what I want to do.
Yeah, there's a bit more of kind of the what you're feeling for it. So
I
looking,
still do for every issue of Shark of War. I still do a Jaws homage cover. So one of the covers is always me playing with the Jaws movie poster in some way, or the Jaws 2 or 3, and even the Jaws the Revenge movie poster, to put a different spin on it for Shark of War. And this one, of course, flips the script on the old classic Jaws poster where the shark is being grabbed by he's the one at the top of the water and the whale is grabbing him. And the woman who is normally the victim is just kind of like floating off to the side because she's not the main focus of anything anymore.
Absolutely. I do love it. I do love it as an ongoing like homage cover that you do. It's like I really love the
Yeah.
fact that you've kept that one going with the Joss. Even can even see like one of them in the background with you there. It's like it's
Oh yeah, I've got them all. Some of them hung up on my wall of comic books behind me.
but no, I absolutely love that that's a continued theme that you do. Um so your artist that you do have for this volume is David Baff Gallert, if I'm saying that
No, no,
correct.
he did six, or issue six. Issue seven, eight, and nine are an artist who wants to go by the name Harsh Stroke.
Harsh Stroke,
So
okay.
yeah, so six, seven, and eight were both done by him, and as is nine. And he also did the two covers that I mentioned, the Marvel Monster homage, and the
Mm,
other cover, which is basically a Fantastic Four #1 cover art with which I think both work perfectly here because they both feature a gigantic monster in them, and we get to see our cast in the shot as well.
absolutely. So how did you find Heartstroke then? Because you said like you went on like looking on Instagram
I
stuff and Facebook groups and
I think it was on a Facebook group. He had posted some I think he posted some pictures he'd drawn of a dinosaur going after a person, and I thought that was kind of what I wanted for these upcoming issues in terms of style. So I thought that was, he hadn't done a comic before, but he was clearly interested, and I clearly saw, the talent there behind it. So I contacted him, and he was, wanted to do it, and he did. Issue seven was good. I think issue eight was even better. His style has improved and evolved, and I think issue nine will be better still. Um, that I think worked out well. I have the colorist is a Ukrainian person who I also met in the community in kind of an odd way. He's a Ukrainian artist, and when Russia invaded Ukraine, he basically posted, "Hey, anybody got any work for me? I need some money." So I hired him for like a one-off print where Nasher's eating Putin. So he did that print for me, and then when I needed a colorist, I thought of him, and it's like he does a good job, and I can he's affordable, and I can help out someone who's in a situation where I have sympathy for.
yeah, and that's Anton Polkovsky, if I'm saying that right. I
Yeah.
think I've got the list of the
Yeah,
creators.
I'm not sure if it's quite the pronunciation, but that's
Yeah.
about how I pronounce
I was gonna say it's like I
it.
apologize if I've mispronounced that in any way. I no doubt have. Just curious as well, like for I'm looking at issue seven's like credits here, and for flatting, you've got Ihor Polovsky, like
Yeah, I
same
think
last
he
name. Are they? Is that like
yeah,
family relatives?
I think he subcontracted his brother, and
Oh, okay.
his to do the flatting for him, and then he asked me, "Oh, can you put my brother on the credits too?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure." So I added him to the credits.
Now, I'm just
So
curious when I had the two names there with the same last name. I'm like, okay, they must be related. Like either
yeah,
that or that's the equivalent of like the Icelandic like Smith or
we're
something
cutting
like
off.
that, and they've all got that last name. But I'm like, they must be related. I was curious.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, they're related. Yeah, it was he it helps him speed. Somebody else doing the flatting, I guess, helped speed him up. So he outsourced it, and he gave his brother the opportunity to do it. So
That's awesome. That's awesome that he gave him the opportunity to do it because it clearly worked. The artwork looks phenomenal
right.
from the two of them. The coloring stuff's great, and then that's awesome as well. If you like, yeah, sure, we'll put him in the credits because he worked on it and give him that credit
Yeah,
as well.
I definitely don't mind doing that. I want my team to get whatever credit they can. Um, if it benefits them in moving on to a bigger paying job, that's great. I'm all about
And how does that
helping
feel now
people.
coming to the end of like the second story arc of this, and like, and even saying that your team, like
Yeah,
from those credits from issue one, where it's basically like two names to like you now have a
yeah.
team of people working to bring Shark of War together. How does that feel to have like a group working on this that you know and trust now that they can do the
Oh,
job?
It's very good. I mean, it basically makes my life a lot better, that I can, I can turn this over while I work on, writing other things. Like I'm currently writing Vicious Vixens 4, which is the next issue for that, and I'm starting to think about doing Samson #3, which is, the next issue of that. Um, so yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. I may even try. I keep wanting to do another issue of Cthulhu Man, but I haven't gotten time to do that yet. But I may try that as well.
That's awesome. You're definitely a busy man that's keeping yourself going with all of these. You do have multiple titles on the go, and
Yeah,
that's phenomenal for you keeping yourself going with all of that. It must be a great creative outlet, but it's awesome to see you expanding, because I can imagine trying to do everything for 4 different titles being just an exhausting process. So I'm glad you've managed to find teams to help you with
yeah, yeah.
each of these books.
I definitely try and have a lifestyle balance. Now that I'm kind of retired from my regular job, it also helps give me more time to do this.
No,
I'm kidding
absolutely.
myself, but yeah, but
Absolutely. So to kind of wrap up our conversation for today, then, last big
sure.
pitch for Shark of War. Why should people check out issue 9? And is there any hints you can give for what's to come in story arc 3 of what's going to be coming
Um,
next for Shark of War? Obviously, I don't want too many spoilers or anything from you.
yeah, sure. I think issue 9, again, this is you're getting an indie comic book, relatively rare, where you're going to get 2 full story arcs if you haven't read it already, and I assume most of the people I'm pitching to haven't, and you're going to be able to get all the back issues, and you're going to be able to get them at a very reasonable price. If you're a digital person, I think that there's a tier that gets you all my comic books for like $2 an issue, which is way cheaper than Marvel or DC. And if you're a physical media person like me, the price for the back issues is basically the price I charge people at Comic Con. It's like $5 for a floppy and $20 for the hardcover compilation of issues 1 through 5. And that's but you're also getting the digital versions, and there's a bonus. Plus, there's you get shipped to you, so you don't have to go to a con. And as another bonus, I'm giving away, every physical backer gets a hard copy of a comic book from my back catalog, because I have past covers, and I'm just like, well, I might as well give these out too. So you're going to definitely get your money's worth, and I think I'm very competitive. People talk a lot about price of Kickstarter versus price of Marvel or a DC comic book, but when you take away the shipping and the fact that our printing costs are significantly higher, I think you see that I'm very competitive even with them, because I really want people to get all my books, and I want people to read them. And I'm always of the theory that people who buy the physical books are more likely to read it than people who just get the digital copy. So I'm always encouraging people to get the physical copy. And maybe it's just because I'm older and that's how I think comics should be read. But I definitely think there's advantages to the physical copy. Not only are you getting that, if you like Shark of War, you'll there's a larger Biting Comics universe. Vicious Vixens and Cthulhu Man both spin off of Shark of War, though you don't have to have read Shark of War to enjoy either of those books as well. And Samson takes place in the same universe. And some hints of going forward. Issue 3 of Samson will feature a major character from Shark of War in a cameo.
Nice.
That'll start, even though it takes place in an earlier time. You'll start to see how Samson ties into the world of Samson in the 1990s, early 2000s, ties into the world of Shark of War, which is roughly present day. Um, and far as Shark of War goes in future issues, there's a line in Doctor Evil where he says, can I get a shark with frickin' lasers? I don't know if people remember that Austin Powers line. Well, that might give you a hint as to something we're going to see in issue 10 of Shark of War.
Nice. Looking forward to it. That sounds absolutely awesome, Ben. So yeah, guys, I will go ahead and put the link down below for the Kickstarter. Go and check it out. Go and check it out. And if you're really unsure about Shark of War, like Ben said, go there. There's a link to the first issue. Go check it out for
Yeah,
yourself if you're not sure. Go
It's
check it.
really, if you want to go to my website, bitingcomics.com, and sign up for my newsletter, not only do you get the first issue, you'll get the second issue. Plus, you'll get the first issue of Vicious Vixens and the first issue of Samson. So you can really see my range
There you go,
of
guys.
comics and
Sign up for the newsletter.
my
Get
oeuvre of comics.
I mean, sign up for the newsletter. You get 4 free issues, is what I'm hearing, guys. Which I'm like, as a comic book reader, I'm like, yeah, for nothing, just for signing up for a newsletter, I'll take it. You know, it's like absolutely.
There's more. You also get my my Shark of War guide for how to avoid a shark attack. A little 4-issue humorous comic book. I don't. You might have seen it when you were reading the back.
Yeah, it's in the back of some of the stuff. It's absolutely brilliant.
Bonus yeah, it's based on real, real recommendations from the Florida University Museum of History on what to do, but it's kind of drawn in meant to be in a humorous manner.
I love it.
I got so many people at Comic Cons who come up to me and they say, "Oh, I'm scared of sharks and I won't go in the water since I saw Jaws 50 years ago." And I'm like, "Well, that's kind of insane, but because sharks really aren't that dangerous to humans relative to a whole bunch of other animals." But
no, absolutely, and it's a great little piece at the end of the issues and stuff. Like I've seen it and had a read through it, and it's absolutely brilliant. I think it's absolutely awesome, and yeah, definitely go check the Kickstarter down below. Like I said, if you want to hear about Samson as well, we talked to Ben about Samson last time he was on the show, so I'll put the link down for that as well. If you want to go and check that out and hear about that, but go and check out this Kickstarter, go and sign up for the newsletter, go and do all of the stuff and check out this work. You've got a chance to read some of the free issues and see if this is something you really want to get involved in. And I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll enjoy the story for it. I definitely did. I thought it was an enjoyable story, and like I said, it's not just like if you want to go in for monster fights and sharks with guns and rockets battling other sea creatures that are doing similar stuff. Yeah, you can get that, but you can also get a decent story out of it as well with a really heartfelt character, which is amazing to see since it's a shark. But I think it's definitely worth checking out. So please go and check it out. Please go and support the work that Ben is doing. Ben, thank you so much for coming on the show and taking your morning.
You can also get my Shark of War plushie, branded USS Nasher.
That is awesome.
Add on for the comic.
That is awesome. There you go. Get a Shark of War plushie. Fantastic. But thank you so much, Ben, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you again. Hope all goes well with the Kickstarter. Hope everything goes well for that. I think you're about just over halfway funded at the moment from last I looked at the page. So guys, let's go and show some support and help him reach that goal. And just let's make Ben's day. That's absolutely phenomenal to check out. But thank you so much, sir. Hopefully we'll be seeing from you again in the future with some of your other projects as they come out. But hope you are well, and I'll put all the links for Ben's stuff down below, for his newsletter, for his social media, for all that stuff. Go and show him some love on social media as well, and just keep up to date with everything he's doing. But that's it for us for today. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, and remember, it is a good week to be a geek. Take care, and we'll see you all next time. Peace.
Thank you, Ben.